Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. I am your host, Dr. Maury Masovitz, with my all-time best favorite and most wonderful co-host, Jen Albany. Hello, Jen.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. We are back.
We are back with a very cool guest that I'm really excited to get to know more because I have not really got to meet her, and you speak very highly of her, so I'm excited about it.
She's great. She's going to have some incredible tips for everybody, so I'm excited for everyone to hear her.
Yes, so. I've heard wonderful things of this guest to come. Yeah, so, and from, we haven't had someone from Legends, which is neat because it's a very neat organization. So
yeah, that'd be cool.
Big time sports company.
Yes, very big, very big.
We were talking about
before. We were talking before
about guests that we'd wanted, all famous guests that we would want to put.
It doesn't have to be famous, Maury. That's
so
the thing.
The challenge is what guests, and honestly, if I want a guest, I just invite them on the podcast. That's the way I feel about it.
But what I was saying to him was we should talk about our dream guests. What would be the ultimate person that we would like to talk to? It doesn't have to be someone famous. It can be someone who we think that we'd have a really great conversation with, or we'd like to get to know more. We could, if we could pick anybody to talk to in the sports industry.
See, I think that's my challenge is I look at this as a way to connect with people and look at it. And I don't the whole, I don't know. Well, first of all, who would you want? And then we'll go from there. Maybe someone will spark my thought.
I think it's not we always joke about how, if you listen to a podcast, one of the podcasts, I talked about how I'm really great at celebrity spotting. So I like to meet celebrities, and it's not so much about it being a celebrity, but I think somebody that comes to mind is Mike Tirico. I think that would be such a cool conversation because there's so many little connections that we have with him. Obviously the Syracuse connection, but I just think all of his experiences and all of the different things that he does. I mean, going from the Olympics to the Masters to Sunday Night Football, or Monday Night Football, whatever. He used to do both, I think.
Yeah.
Those conversations and his
horse racing. Did he do horse racing too?
Yeah, he does the Kentucky Derby on NBC. So just those conversations and his perspective on things, I think would be such a great conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I could think of maybe President Baker from the NCAA would be kind of interesting because it's kind of crazy in that world right now.
Yeah.
On the professional side, I guess there's probably some professional coaches Harbaugh from the Ravens. I enjoy watching a Ravens game, so that'd be interesting.
That'd be so cool. Yeah, yes. That would be really cool. So you can just invite him. You said, if I want people on the podcast, I just invite him. We can
but I don't look at it that way on a normal basis. So it's I don't know, the whole star thing. I've never been I
just think it's more of the conversations that would be different than, what I think we're used to, but just that we have been having. So it'd be kind of cool.
Oh, I got one. Simone Biles would be incredibly interesting. There's one that I would actually be someone that's or Michael Phelps.
Michael Phelps. Yes.
Some Olympians, that would actually be really interesting because honestly, that whole world of next level competitive Olympics is not something that I've been exposed to. Besides, we do have a friend that actually has, or a colleague that gives us some insight into that, but just not as much a touch point with. I feel that's super
that would be so cool because then she could touch on so many different things. Michael Phelps too. They could touch on the fact of how they train and how they get ready, but also the mental side of it because they're such advocates for mental health and being so aware of that kind of stuff. I'm just gonna DM her. We'll see if she's available.
Or just get into the whole mindset of how do you prepare yourself for that? That's something that I find incredibly
fascinating.
Really fascinating because every sport I ever worked with, you're traveling, but you're not on the road, competing for such a long period of time, all that kind of mental mindset. You get to come home and come back, but being there for a week straight and actually you have the qualifiers before that. So you're away from home for a long time.
Yeah. That would
See, you did get me. I told you if we just started the podcast, I'd be able to get you a name at some point.
And hey, we could throw this out to the listeners too. If they have any guests that they would love us to chat with.
Or if you're a person that's out there that wants to throw your name into us, like Simone Biles, if you're listening, we are open.
Anytime. We will make the time.
We will work our schedule around you.
At any time. Mike Tirico as well. Mike Tirico, you got time? We're good.
Shout out to them.
I know. Very cool. But all right, cool stuff.
Awesome.
Love
it. We have a guest that's as excited as Simone Biles coming up next, and I'm sure she would appreciate that. And we will be back after this message. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us on your favorite podcast streaming service. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting, a group focused on educating and guiding high school and college students looking towards careers in athletics. To find out more, go to our website at www.athcareer.com. That's ATHCAREER.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Maury, please introduce our guest today.
Very excited about today's guest. Brings a wealth of experience from a diverse career in communications, marketing, and community relations. She began her journey with a BA in applied communications from Kent State University in 2011, where she was an active member of the Kent State Communications Society and the American Marketing Association. Prior to that, she completed her studies in journalism and media studies at San Diego State University. After graduating, she gained hands-on experience as a writer-reporter at NBC7 San Diego. She then took a role with the Akron Aeros and Akron RubberDucks, handling everything from suites and picnic coordination to community relations. In 2015, she joined Jack Morton Worldwide, where she managed $1.5 million in experiential marketing programs and helped establish the Chevy Brand Ambassadors Program. This was followed by a strategic role at the Albany Business Review, where she led advertising efforts, managed multi-platform marketing solutions. From 2019 to 2023, she served as the Director of Marketing at the Ohio State University Alumni Association, deepening her alumni relationship and creating engaging content. Currently, she is the Director of College Partnerships at Legends, leveraging her experience in digital marketing and negotiations. Please welcome to the podcast, Sierra Kehn. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm just going to take that soundbite and use that everywhere I go and say, I'm not even gonna recite it because that was amazing. Made me sound great, Maury. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me. It's all your
experience. Like I didn't make that up. That was all you. Like so.
There's some things, and I was like, oh, I did do that. So yeah. I appreciate it. Maury, Jen, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to be able to connect with both of you industry leaders. Appreciate the time.
No, we're excited to have you. This is great. And Sierra, it's our chance to catch up. We worked together earlier this year, and now we're just excited to now be colleagues and friends, and happy that you're here with us. So
yeah, Jen ran to me and goes, I have the perfect podcast guest. I got her. She's going to be on. I was like, perfect. We were excited. So I'm excited to get to learn more about you because we haven't really worked together, but I'm excited to hear about you, and hopefully when you're back in our neck of the woods, we'll spend more time together too.
I know.
We absolutely will. I love Cuse, as you kind of read from my quick bio. I lived in upstate New York, so I'm a big fan and just love that community. And yeah, I hope I live up to Jen's hype. So we'll give it a shot.
I'm sure. Jen,
oh, you will.
Jen usually knows how to pick them, so you should be pretty good.
No, we definitely hit it off right away, and I think we're very similar in kind of the way that we work and communicate. So you were definitely on the list in the beginning. So we're excited to have you here. So thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it.
So with that, let's dive into your tip or tricks that you can give us here. Number one.
Yeah, this is great. I spent some time thinking through these, so I have my notes here. I may
you.
go off script, so keep me in check here. I think the first one that came to mind when you guys asked the question, because I wanted to be thoughtful of not giving like the same things that everyone is going to give. So I'm like, I need to think outside the box here.
Yeah.
And I think especially in my time in my current role with Legends, and I think this goes across the industry, but I think especially in college, is we're always recruiting. We work with about, at this point, I think 16 or 17 different universities at different capacities, different partnerships.
Yeah.
But we're always looking for talent. So I think that the tip that came to my mind, and I've had a lot of these conversations with, I think, people who are either recently out of college or just trying to get into the sports career, is that like sales isn't a dirty word. And I think it scares everybody. You know, I don't want to go into sales and I think what I've been really trying to coach people on and just share and help kind of drive home is that sales isn't just about cold calling and, you know, making people spend money, right? Like what it really is about is gaining skills to be able to connect with people and understand what matters to them and what their family is looking for, what they need, what they value. And all of that allows you just to basically put on a silver platter something that is going to fit for their lifestyle, that is going to allow them to have a good time, have people like Jen and her team create an experience and then make memories. And that is what sports is, right? I mean, there's obviously the product in the field, but why people love sports is that deep and personal connection. So I think it's just to say, don't be turned off by a sales role because it allows you to be able to hone those skills. And it also allows you to understand the connection between like the actual relationship building and the revenue. At the end of the day, this is a business, no matter what sport, what league, they're here to make money. We're here to make money at the end of the day from like, if you put on that business hat. So I think being able to correlate and understand the work you're doing and how you can tie it to revenue and how you can be more productive, more efficient, that is going to help you with any stage in your career in sports. So I think that's number one is don't be afraid of a sales role. It doesn't mean you're going to be in it forever, but you're going to learn skills that you will use at any capacity.
Yeah, I will say I was afraid of that when I first started. Like, I was like, oh, I don't want to go into sales. I don't want to do that. Like, have my livelihood based on what I can sell. And like, that's how I make my money. And that's how I make my salary. So I will say I was the first person to think that. But you're so right. Sales is about building your people skills almost. And you need people skills for everything in any job, really, not just in sports. So that's such a good point about the sales thing. Because I think people do get afraid of that. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been thinking too about a lot of people that now have higher positions and how many of them now have come from a background in sales and what, what they have said like multiple times, and close friends of mine or people we have relationships with said like, it's about forming connections with people and relationships. And like, I think more people think it's much more transactional. And I think what you point at is like 100% right. When you're doing it the best, it's like when you're connecting with people. And I don't think people look at it that way.
No, because you're connecting with the fan too. When you're either talking to them or you're in front of them or whatever, you're connecting with them, like you said, and then it becomes a relationship. It's not so much of like hey, do you want to buy season tickets? It's, how can I help you? How do I get you to come support your favorite team? And again, like people don't think about that. They just think it's cold call. That you're so right.
Absolutely.
That's so true.
And I think another thing, like ideally, you know, if you want to be in sports, you stay in industry. I have a non-traditional journey through sports, personally. But I think a lot of it too is, you know, I think about like my suite holders back in my, you know, when I was 22, 23 years old. And some of them I'm still in contact with. One of them offered me a job, right? Like, so there's also like the value of, to your point, Maury, of like building that relationship, like, that can turn into opportunities for you, like way beyond what you could have ever imagined. So there's also value just from a personal, selfish standpoint, right? Like, what can I do to set myself up to expand my network? And, you know, we've had people at Legends call me and say, hey, I just went to what was it? Oh gosh, some minor league baseball team, in Georgia. He's like, I just went to X game. And I had the best salesperson. We need to hire him. And 2 months later, he's on one of our teams. So, and it's because he treated his, you know, client and incredibly well, and they had a great experience. And he didn't even know this client was in sports. So, I think it's just another kind of perk is, you know, you get to meet a lot of really interesting, neat people that can hopefully help you along, you know, your journey.
Awesome. Yeah, what a good tip. Thank you. Okay, number 2.
This one is very near and dear and deep to my heart. Hopefully it's one you haven't heard yet. We'll see. Get to know your data and marketing people. Like
not
no
heard
matter
that one yet.
no,
that is not
no
one.
matter no matter what role you're in, I think especially if you're on the selling side, those individuals, as a marketer, I feel like I can say this about like our data team members. The data team members are so valuable, and I think you kind of sit in your seat, and whether you're selling or even if you're writing email copy or you're planning an experience, in venue, being able to connect with our data people at whatever capacity, whoever they are. Maybe it's someone who wears 16 hats, but also, works on data segmentation. That person can be extraordinarily helpful to whatever you're doing. I think asking questions and connecting with them, getting coffee once a month, like data is the commodity, no matter what industry in the world you will ever be in. Like data is more valuable than anything else. So I think learn from them, ask them questions, ask their opinion. That cross functionality and communication really has to be there. And I think in sports and being outside of sports and coming back in, I don't think it's as great as it could be. And I'm just speaking from, I think, industry wide. I'm always, when I'm on site with our partnerships, being like, have you talked to so-and-so about this? Like they have all of that data, and it's like, oh no, I didn't think about that. So I think not siloing yourself to, I am only a salesperson or I'm only a marketing person, like making sure that you're leveraging the brilliant people and minds you have around you, because you're just going to make each other stronger. And if something's working really well on the phones, tell your marketing team, because that can influence how they write email copy or how they write a voiceover or a PA, right? Like, so I think that we got to share the knowledge, and it doesn't always happen. I think it sounds easy, but it takes work. It takes like having to like loop someone else into an email thread, like, or having to go to someone's desk, but it helps. And if you can track it and prove that it works, then you're just able to show the value in real time. So that one I think is big. Like, get to know your data marketing people, work with them, and don't just go through the motions. Take a minute to look up and like help connect the dots.
The other thing that I'll say, a lot of the younger people who might be listening to this might not even realize that data, or analytics is a career field within athletics, and how important it's become, because it is become the rising star really of the industry to help do and work with companies like yours and connecting people. And, if you're looking for a career in, marketing or some other things, like take a look at that role of data analytics and what they do. And I mean, it's become such a valuable resource that people just don't realize, and that they can make into a career that can take you pretty far in the industry.
I mean, I want to go back to what you said about how this is a business and you're trying to make money, and these data people, they can help you do your job smarter and better and help you make more money right off the bat. So that's why they're there. They're there to help you find the best day to send an email, the best time to send an email, how to send the email, who to send the email to, or what group to target, how to segment this. Like, that's only going to make you do your job better, and it's going to make it easier, and you're going to do your job smarter, and then in turn make more money and do a better job of what we're trying to do here. So totally, everything is moving a mile a minute, and the data people only can help you keep up with all of that.
I think about like things on my side where we've had data analytics, and like we take like turnstile through of like different locations, and how like, okay, well, why is this gate not getting as many people, and we're getting overloaded for like the experience somewhere, and how certain things have driven. Or like recently we were talking about traffic flow, and how like now we have to reroute while we do it to make it a better experience. And it just bleeds into everything. And it's such a great thing to talk about. And it's not something that I think is talked about probably enough. So it's a great tip.
No, it's definitely not. It's definitely not. I agree with you 100%. So.
And I'll just I'm going to kind of use an anecdote that Jen and I kind of experienced together, I guess. And so I was very lucky to be kind of included in some of their weekly marketing meetings, which is really great, because I'm sitting not just with incredible team members like Jen and in her team that she manages, but also team members who manage social and web and email and all the things. And I think, there are moments where a question is asked, rightfully so, well, why are we doing this? And I think it's really easy to just be like, well, we think it's going to do this. And I say that, like, you don't have to, if data points to something, it doesn't have to like turn out exactly how you think it's going to.
Right.
I think the point is like, it's like, we have an idea. This data shows us something that's kind of interesting, that people from this, like, I don't know, this zip code are purchasing more of these products. We're going to try this, and it's going to allow us to prove whether it's right or wrong. And I think even if something like fails, I hate to even say that, we learn from it. So like at the end of the day, I think I always use the safe word as like pilot or test. I think it's less scary to people. Like, we're going to pilot this, or we're going to test this, and we're going to, you know, only allocate X amount of dollars or X amount of resources at X amount of time. But if I can come out of it with a learning, like that's a win. And at the end of the day, like, the people you report to, that's kind of all they're asking for. And I think like that's something that, you know, trying to do in baby steps is okay. And I think like just being comfortable with it, it might not work out the way we want it to, but at least we'll know, right? And we won't do it again, and we'll try something else. So I think that's part of it.
You can eliminate something at the least of it. Like, you know what, that wasn't the right move. Let's go pivot towards this. And it just has so much value. So no, that was awesome. Okay. Ready?
One.
Oh my God.
Third one.
Two for two. All right.
2 for 1.
Pressure now. Okay. This one, I think this doesn't necessarily just apply to sports, but I think it's really important in this industry is, when you are like looking for a role, or when you first get in a role, I'll be the first to say, like, as a millennial, it was always like grind. Like, we really romanticize the like grind culture, and like first one in, first one out. And we all know, like, especially as time has progressed, that isn't necessarily healthy. It isn't necessarily the best way to go. And I think the way that I've been like kind of shifting it in my mind is like, it's not working the most amount. I think it's just like, I hate to say the word like caring the most, but just caring. So I think it's like, when you're in your role, no matter what you do, whether it is your first role in sports and you are, you know, making 80 to 100 calls a day, or you are, you know, like me, whatever, interning in the suite level and like hauling kegs up, you know, up and down the concourse, like whatever those more difficult jobs are, especially at the beginning. I think it's just, trying every day to like lead with that care. And it's not just a like care of doing something the right way, but like caring about others. Like, if someone needs something, like, be the first one to raise your hand. It doesn't mean you have to, again, like, do all the things, but like, just kind of be that one to be there. And I think that sometimes, not as overlooked, but that's what sticks out to people. Like, they're not going to necessarily solely remember like, oh, Sierra was the best seller. Like that's important, but it's more so going to be like, Sierra had a great attitude. And when her other team members were struggling, she was the first one over at their cube or their desk, like giving tips and helping coach them. Right. And she was, you know, she was a good vibe. Right. And I think like when we talked about recruiting earlier, every single hiring manager I've worked with in my entire career, but especially now, they're not looking for the person that like on paper is great because of their revenue numbers. They're looking for the person who gives a damn, right? And like is coachable and cares and like leads with that. And I just think that like always go in, like, of course you want to, you know, do your best. And it's great to have friendly competition and want to be the best. I think just making sure that doesn't cloud, your judgment and portraying like who you are as an individual, right? And leading with the human aspect of it before anything else. Because people want to work with people they like, you know, and people that care and people that want to help. And those who don't act that way, you know, generally I feel like it can be more challenging, and maybe you're moving more frequently, or you're like, why am I not progressing? I think just really trying to lean into that. It's hard. You know, not every day is a great day, but just not losing sight of the importance of that piece.
Just being a good person. Like it's so simple to say, but like that sticks out. Like when I'm hiring even interns, I'm looking for people that are going to mesh well with my team, that, you know, have a good attitude, like you said, who have a good personality, who care about other people. Like you said, if there's somebody who's down or someone who's struggling, like you want to be that first person over there. How can I help you? How can I support you? What do you need? And I think sometimes people forget that. Like, you got to be a human first. Like, it is a business, and it is like go, 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 but you got to be a human first. So
I think the interesting part too, like what you said was, you know, a producer is one thing, but I think if you're just a person that produces, you might just stay in that role because that's the only thing that you are doing.
Right.
And
True.
when you're looking towards, hey, who am I going to hire for a leadership role or a management role? You're not necessarily just going to look for that one quality, and that could get you stuck, right? Because you're just doing this one thing, and if you're not, you know, going to the person next to you and saying, okay, how can I help you be a better seller? How can I help our team be better? That's the person that's going to be picked for that next management or leadership role. And I think that's what you mean. That what you're saying is you can't just get stuck in that vibe, or you're not going to progress your career.
Totally.
So, no,
this is something that my husband heard on a podcast, so I can't actually give the maybe it was yours. I don't know. I can't attribute the quote, but it was like you should either be learning or earning. And and I'm just putting on my hat as an individual, right? Like in sales or sports is a tough industry. I think overall, from a compensation standpoint, it can be challenging. Obviously, a time dedication standpoint can be challenging. So I think, as you kind of, to your point, Maury, about like progressing your career, you know, keep learning at every opportunity that you can, because that is going to position you for that next role where you're going to be continuing to earn more. Right. And I think that's just a good kind of mentality. Is like, if you're not earning or you're not learning, then something's got to give, right? Is this the right role? Is it the right fit? Is it the right organization? Right. Like,
you can't just clock in and clock out. That's not going to do it in this field. That's not going to get you to where you want to be. No, that's awesome. Okay. Number 4, Jen, am I on the right track? Number 4.
We're on 4.
This is one you're going to hear all the time, which I know, but that's okay. I think if you, hopefully, you know, as people are looking, whether it's to break into sports or continue to progress or whatever, is as you're connecting with individuals, first of all, like, reach out. I think you're always surprised. You'll, like, you know, if you reach out to someone on LinkedIn, people like are pretty great at getting back to you. Not everybody, and that's okay. But I think we feel like, this person's a VP at whatever organization. They're not going to spend time with me. And I think we're always really, again, happily surprised with the time people want to dedicate to helping others. So like, if there's someone that you really admire, you've been like following on LinkedIn, like, reach out to them. It doesn't hurt. I think if anything, it just shows that you're a go-getter and that you want to connect. And so not being afraid of doing that. And then if you have the opportunity to connect with somebody, just come prepared. Like, just make sure it's not like, hi, I'm here to talk about my professional development.
You're reading my mind.
Like, don't just be
like, I've been on both ends. I'm sure you guys have been too.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
And I think it will, first of all, be really impressive if you have a list of, 3, 5, 7 questions that you've thought through, and being able to, I think some of the best interactions I've had as of late in the last like year and a half is, even one person I connected with was kind of like reiterating, like, I love what you said about this, and it's really getting me thinking about this. I'm like, oh my gosh. So he's like actively taking notes. And I mean, we hired that person, right? So I think knowing that interaction can go a long way. And then finally, it's hard, and I need to be better at this too, is a follow-up note. Like, hey, thanks so much for taking the time. It doesn't always happen, and that's okay. Like, everyone's busy, but when I get one of those, I'm like, oh my gosh, how not, like, that really sticks out to me. So I think, like, just those little things, it can be difficult, but, stay true to them. The time that you spend, it's worth it. It's making an impact, and it's going to make you memorable. And, there's a lot of people who want to be in the sports industry. So how can you set yourself apart? And those are some like little things that can go a really long way. And Maury and Jen, I'd love your perspective on on that piece as well.
Yeah. Go ahead, Maury.
I was going to say, like, I've had some great, and even lately, some great students, and especially I think in the college setting, since it's like an educational environment, people are super open to like, oh yeah, I'll be happy to answer your questions. And definitely at some pro areas and different parts in sports, I've heard a lot of people are just happy to share and like be a part of the community. But that whole piece, when you said like, make sure you're prepared, like there's sometimes it's cringeworthy where I'm like, oh, I got to get this person out of their own misery because they didn't come prepared. And like, the ones, like you said, that have like looked at it and said, hey, I saw you're building this facility and I saw that you're doing this, and this, like, why did you do that? I'll be like, well, that's a really intelligent question. And it really is a difference maker, and be like, I'm so much more like, okay, here's a person who's thinking and can really be an engaged person, compared to like, don't just do the interview to like check the box. That's not going to be worth it. I think like that's 100% right by saying, be prepared, know what you're doing, is reach out and make it a meaningful engagement. And clearly that's the thread of our conversation today, is meaningful relationships, because that I think would make the difference. If I'm looking like, that's a kid or a person or a young person I'd put on my list, like I'd want to come back to them if I have a job opening, because they clearly are a person that thinks, more broadly. So no, that's a great tip. And no one has said it exactly like that. That makes you feel good.
No, that's really good. Cause again, it's about the relationship. And I think too, when you say like people get back to you, like, cause I think people remember they were also in that position not so long ago, or they were in their shoes and they were looking for someone to reach out to them. So that's why I always remember, if a student reaches out, hey, can I do an informational interview? Can I ask you questions about your job? I'm always like, I used to be that person. So I always try to help if I can, but the prepared and like understanding, I think we talked about this at some point, Maury, on this podcast, understanding the industry that you're going to talk to somebody in. Like if you're talking about marketing, understand what we do in marketing, and be prepared to have those questions and, have those conversations with that people. That's a big one. So. No, it was a very good one, Sierra. Very good.
All right. I feel like I was really tanking. I was downward
trajectory. It was good.
Not at all. No.
Oh, cool. Love it.
When you said be prepared, I was like, oh, she hit the key. Like that was for me the one that people are just not there all the time. Well, Jen, this is the big grand finale. Throw it out there.
All right. So, Sierra, what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So what do you know now at this point in your career that you wish you knew when you started?
Yes, this is one that I share often because it was a big, like, kind of pivotal moment in my professional career. It did not happen in the sports industry. So I started off in sports, as you mentioned earlier, Maury, and then really leaned into the marketing world, which I've loved and has really helped me with where I am today, kind of in an indirect way. But as I was kind of going through that transition from sports into like marketing and advertising space, I was also like needing to manage a sales team for the first time. So we weren't selling tickets, but we were selling sponsorships and we were selling digital media. I had a team of 5 account executives, and I was interviewing for the role and it was going great. And my former boss, Cindy, she called me to offer me the job. I accepted it. And then after we hung up, I had an absolute panic. I was like, I can't do this. What did I just sign up for? I've managed suite servers, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of game day employees,
Right.
but I've never managed people, and not just manage people who need to hit a sales quota. And I am responsible for our team hitting our sales quota each month and our overall, revenue goals and all of these different categories and kind of different verticals. So I panicked. I called her back and I said, Cindy, I can't do this. I retracted my offer. And she said, of course you can. I believe in you. We're going to do this together. And I trusted her, and it took me to an entirely different level in my career. from a people management standpoint, but then also just an understanding of business acumen and revenue and how to forecast and all of those things I'm using now again in the sports industry, right? Yeah. But it's all business, right? So kind of back to the full circle is I think that ever since that moment, I won't ever doubt myself. Like if someone else sees it in me, I'm going to see it in myself and be like, hell yeah, like we can do this. So I think just if you ever feel like scared, and I think there's whatever common phrase, like if you're comfortable, you're not growing. And I think it's like some of those moments will feel small and some of those moments will feel very vast and big, and that it's okay to feel that way. But if you have others who are alongside you to help you succeed, then it's going to be fine and you're going to do it and you're going to do great and you're going to learn and you're going to mess up and you're going to learn. Yeah. And then you're going to, be so much more prepared for that next role. So just don't doubt yourself. And you can make it happen. And yeah, that's my final word of advice.
No, it was a great story. Great. And Sarah, I have to say, I'm so looking forward to your next trip up to see us, to spend time in person. Jen had you pegged right on.
She said, how could anybody ever doubt you, Sierra? No way, girl. No way.
Please.
You've been an awesome guest. Thank you so much for your time. And,
thank you.
We will definitely enjoy spending time. And I just, what you shared has been just so great. So thank you so much.
This is great. These tips will be so nice. Helpful. These tips will be so helpful to people. So I think it was great. And thank you again. This was so great. So
yes. And however you share things, like if people reach out to me, I'm very like open book available. You can find me on LinkedIn. And let's connect.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. I'm sure all of our listeners will love it, and you'll just get flooded your inbox with the most exciting questions that are prepared questions. Prepared.
That's right.
Prepared.
So that's a perfect lead in to make sure everybody follows us on all of our socials. So we're at Ath Career Pod on Instagram and X, and we're on LinkedIn and on Facebook. So make sure you connect with us there and like us on all the podcast platforms. And
make sure to hit the follow button.
And then follow Sierra too and connect with her on LinkedIn. So this has been great. Thank you so much, Sierra.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Have a great one. Again, I'm such a pleasure. I just appreciate the opportunity and can't wait to connect in person. It'll be great.
It was great to see you. Okay, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.